Claudia narrated 28 books in the Babysitters Club series. Wow, that is a lot of writing for somebody who is so bad at spelling. Here are my choices for her 10 best books. Number 10, Claudia and the Bad Joke. The BSC gets a new client called Betsy Sobak, who's a wild practical joker. She sabotages a swing as a joke, Claudia's leg is broken, and she's sent to the hospital, where she is worried she'll have to quit the club. In her absence, the Babysitters Club has a giant prank war with Betsy, until Betsy surrenders and apologizes. I remember this book being pretty fun, and it must have been popular because other books in the series have prank wars like this one. Most notably, Jesse's Babysitter. Number 9, Claudia and Crazy Peaches. I put this book on the list because Claudia's Aunt Peaches is kind of important to this series. Peaches moves in for a while after learning she's pregnant. She's wild, she's fun, and she makes spur-of-the-moment decisions. Claudia and Peaches have a ton of fun together, and that's most of the book. It's them having fun adventures. That's what makes the book enjoyable. They get in trouble for being outside of the house after midnight. Peaches and Claudia get into a fight over who's to blame, and Peaches has a miscarriage. Claudia worries it's her fault until she is assured it's not. In the subplot, the club babysits Natalie Springer, the girl that Karen likes to insult all the time in the Little Sister series. They help Natalie make friends with some new kids. Number 8, Claudia's book. Claudia's autobiography starts with 2 okay stories. One time, nobody came to her birthday party. She was really sad, until her grandma threw a surprise party for her. And that's sweet. Next is the fun story, where Claudia thinks the Tooth Fairy is a monster. She's terrified and sets traps until she learns the truth. Then there's an excellent, interesting story where Claudia is sent to a special needs school because of her problems with learning. The school is great for her, but she hates it because she's separated from her friends. The last story is the worst because it's mostly a Christy story. Christy, you have your own autobiography. Don't take 3 chapters away from Claudia's autobiography. Claudia's first babysitting job is for David Michael, who gets lost, but they find him at the beach before Christy's mom notices. Number 7, Claudia and the Phantom Phone Calls. Claudia's first book is a great introduction to her and her life. There's some boyfriend drama over Trevor Sanborn, and the narration is stronger than in the previous Babysitters Club book. It's a fun little mystery where the girls get scared over small things. That's a good setup the first time around. Eventually, the series will overuse the idea of scary mysteries about nothing to the point where it stops being fun. But here, it's still an original idea. The girls are scared of a criminal called the Phantom Phone Caller. He calls homes and hangs up without saying anything. Then the girls get a bunch of phantom phone calls. Eek! The culprit is Alan Gray, a boy who likes Christy but doesn't know how to talk to her. So he memorized her schedule so he could call her, and I'm sorry, Christy dating this guy is even creepier than the criminal who's calling and robbing houses. Number 6, Claudia and the Sad Goodbye. This is the most memorable of the Babysitters Club books that deals with death. It's extra sad because Claudia's grandmother Mimi is a great fan-favorite character. It's really tragic that she dies, because now Claudia is alone. She has no family members who understand her. Except for Aunt Peaches, who's introduced 50 books later. The book is the sad story of Grandma Mimi's death. She has dementia and starts acting rudely to everyone. Twice she is rushed to the hospital before she dies. Claudia feels terrible, but she feels better after talking things over with her parents in dealing with the parents of Corey Addison, who's the plot kid of the book. Number 5, Claudia and the Genius of Elm Street. The title of the book is not quite accurate. Rosie Wilder isn't a genius. She's a child star who does singing and dancing and regularly appears on TV. She makes Claudia feel dumb and insecure, so Claudia keeps dumping Rosie on Janine. The other babysitters try to make Rosie more well-behaved. They all fail because Claudia's the narrator. Only she can be the one who helps the plot kid of the book. It's revealed that Rosie is great at art, which her parents disapprove of. Claudia helps Rosie's parents see that her art is important. This is the book where Claudia does an art show with junk food. I think that's the only big art project of hers that I remembered years later. I know she does like 10 different art projects in this series. I only remember the junk food art. Number 4, Claudia and the Lighthouse Ghost. I tend to prefer books which have a lot of storylines and books that are fun and lighthearted. I also like the Claudia books, which feature Janine. So this particular book hits all of my preferences. Janine and Claudia are forced to share a room for a while. That makes Claudia upset. Janine is worse than normal because she's having boyfriend problems. Janine starts flirting with other guys, while her boyfriend starts flirting with other girls. They get back together in the end, and I am honestly shocked Janine had a big love triangle before Claudia did. The mystery is that a high schooler died in a lighthouse 9 years ago. When the lighthouse owners return to town, somebody starts trying to hurt them. In the lighthouse, the babysitters find a paper which the victim dropped. It proves he entered the lighthouse as part of a gang initiation ceremony. The culprit is one of the gang members, trying to cover up his role in the death. Number 3, Claudia, Queen of 7th grade. In Book 101, Claudia gets sent back to 7th grade. Like many other readers, I did not like this story. It dominates Claudia books for the rest of the series. 5 of her last 6 books are about 7th grade or about her 7th grade friends. This is the best of the 7th grade books. Claudia is nominated as Queen of 7th grade, which means she has to help plan the prom. Her king is Mark Jaffe, who's kind of a jerk who doesn't care about anything, but he's really hot, so Claudia can't help but feel attracted to him. She's unsure how she feels about him after they kiss. Meanwhile, I'm rooting for Claudia to date her funny best friend Josh, who has an obvious crush on her. She doesn't realize it. I like the Josh-Claudia relationship, and I think maybe it works so well because the love triangle doesn't officially start until the next book. In this book, it's both guys being nice, and there's not too much love drama. Love drama is saved for the next book, where things really get ramped up. And then, even later, another author steps in and breaks up the couple. It's like the authors disagreed on who Claudia should date. Number 2, Claudia and the Terrible Truth. This is the very serious book about child abuse. I think the author and publishers knew the book would be subjected to a lot of scrutiny, so they put in the effort to make it as good as possible. It shows. It's definitely a good book. Mr. Nichols is mean to his wife and kids. They are terrified of making messes or upsetting him. Claudia thinks it's weird, and the situation slowly intensifies until she overhears Mr. Nichols slap one of the boys. Claudia gets the babysitters and her mother involved. Mrs. Kishi is great in this book. She does all the right things. Sadly, nothing works. Mrs. Nichols refuses to admit there's a problem, and they stop using the babysitters club. Things intensify when the kids are found covered with bruises. Claudia and her mother help Mrs. Nichols and the kids escape to a new home in another state. These scenes are frightening and dramatic. The entire book feels realistic. Several of the special episode books feel like boring educational lectures. This one does not. It handles the subject well. And now number 1, Claudia and the Perfect Boy. It's almost Claudia and the Perfect Book. I don't remember why I didn't give this book a perfect score. Maybe I was upset about the irrelevant babysitting subplot. It took too much focus away from the awesome main story. The story is that Claudia joins the school newspaper because she wants a boyfriend. She handles the personal ads, which leads to many interesting stories. Like, she helps one boy get the professional help he needs. She tries to avoid the creepy Alan Gray. She sets certain people up on dates. And she accidentally replaces Marianne's nice message to Logan with a really mean one. Oh, and she learns how to use spell check for the first time. That was funny. So we've got a bunch of different stories, and all of them worked well. They are all so good. I didn't notice the Claudia boyfriend story mostly gets ignored. She only goes on 2 dates. The first guy is self-centered and only cares about model cars, while the second guy is vaguely racist and ignores what she says. Technically, she goes on a 3rd date with a guy in the arcade, but that's only 2 paragraphs long. It is not cover-worthy material. Claudia writes an ad, and she gets the perfect response from her dream guy. She's surprised to learn it was written by Stacy. Stacy was trying to cheer Claudia up by tricking her into thinking her dream guy is out there somewhere waiting for her. Claudia decides friends are more important than boyfriends, which is a good moral. Good book. I liked it. Those are my choices for the 10 best Claudia books. I'm also making a list of the 10 worst Claudia books, so if you're interested in seeing what Claudia stories I didn't like, stay tuned.